The Diary of a Certified Psychopath. 30th of October, 2021. Reality Check, Part 5. My final outdoor venture of the month. And what greater motivation to brave autumn's dramatically darker dusks or bear their ever more biting chills than to brazenly blur the boundaries of virtual fact and veritable fiction and prove beyond the fleeting shadow of a doubting fox framed by a street lamp's flickering luminance that Mother Nature's sumptuous spectacle of mellowing greens, maturing golds, and ever rustier shades of orange, falling gracefully from their tireless host's swaying limbs in swirling arrays upon the whispering forest floor, is all, in tenuous truth, no more tangible than the turquoise opulence of Watopia's ocean tunnel, nor the googy glow of Fuego's Saddle Springs, or even the resonant roar of the Alpe de Zwift's resident Yeti, the latter being a legendary myth living in an animated fantasy, enough to trigger a turn of responsible journalism from the most tawdry tabloid hack between this side of the sun and the dark side of the moon. Regarding this specific attempt to synchronize partial pretense with pure reality, environmentally they are polar opposites, with Zwift's semi-fictitious creation being set against the definitively urban backdrop of New York, whilst Lucifer's spectacular excavation languishes amidst the lavish pastoral vistas of mid-Sussex. Topographically, however, they could almost be twins, separated at their artistic and organic origins, with distances and elevation discrepancies respectively amounting to 0.2 kilometres and 3 metres. A closer analysis reveals that the proportions and positions of individual climbs are also remarkably similar, though I admit to specifying an atypical starting point in order to visually align both course profiles, and commencing each lap from the route's summit outside the golf club, which itself could serve as a crucial sustenance station, would be significantly more practical. The circuit is considerably safer when ridden anti-clockwise, since this avoids any hazardous right turns across the path of oncoming traffic, along with one potentially lethal blind junction situated at the base of a 15% incline. The segment has one existing Strava duplicate beginning at the aforementioned location and entitled Dyke Loop Mark II, around which I set my best time roughly 2 years ago on a slighter steed and in marginally more favourable conditions, though what this mossy green mechanical marvel lacks in speed is restored through comfort on that cold journey home. The 1st of November, 2021. Movember. I recently gleaned from a tenuous source that the clocks going forward resulted in a significant number of worldwide fatalities via heart attack, as induced by a mortal fear of fetching up to work 1 hour late. Imagining precisely what kind of work that the prospect of being late by 1 hour for would be enough to terrify someone to death is, by converse coincidence, enough to terrify me roughly half as much as the notion of failing to use the extra hour one gains when the clocks go back to bank your first crop of outdoor miles for the month. Quite how I managed to sleep through every minute of it yesterday morning is beyond baffling, and were it not for my subsequently glancing at the one household clock old enough to function without the internet, I'd never have noticed. The clock in question nestles within the kitchen oven, and remains permanently set to British summertime, not as a calculated point of reference, but because nobody can work out how to alter it. Hunkering down along Harbour Way in my weathered Brooks cambium, I assessed that the ferocious west-southwesterly I was hammering against had plunged autumn's advancing chill into single digits, though thankfully not by sufficient margin to require the gloves I'd chosen to forego on my hasty departure, or the ensemble of fancy breeze-blocking fabrics in place of a single puffer jacket. The perfect tailwind makes not a whisper, since this is the wind one doth feel, not hear. And today, this invisible hand of inaudible aid transformed my magic carpet into a rolling catamaran, with me a veritable human sail, as I soared up upon its powerful crest to Brighton Marina, intending to root out Zwift's next real-life replica. Regrettably, my potential candidate, aside from being unplottable on Strava's course creator, did not adequately resemble any virtual embodiment, and regardless would be inadmissible due to harbouring 2 sets of traffic lights, as well as being hazardously busy throughout the day. Nonetheless, I include it for reference, to satisfy my curiosity and perhaps serve as an intriguing training loop on exceptionally quiet nights. Note that I had to use Garmin Connect to plot and create the route before exporting and uploading it to Strava as a GPX file, since the latter's native utility refused to recognise any section of road which ran through a tunnel or beneath a flyover. Tried traversing my way up and back through Kent Town to avoid what would have been a blustery nemesis had I headed home along the coast, though I only succeeded in losing my bearings amidst the tangled web of streets, crescents and avenues that form Brighton's quaintly cosmopolitan sub-capital, at one point genuinely mistaking north for south. Nothing more in the way of dimensional parallels, but a decent innings of outdoor distance to get November up to speed. 2nd of November. Old habits, modern methods. Well, having created these routes, or rather repackaged, repurposed and rebranded them, it will be a shame not to readily avail their benefits. So I decided to join myself alongside a modestly sized group of me, myself and I for the solitary Sea Cats weekly antisocial around Shoreham's Beach Town Barracuda circuit. A most pleasant jaunt from the starting pen to the finish line, during which much witty banter took place, mainly amongst spectating foxes, whilst a highly responsible ride leader ensured the event's advertised pace and structure were scrupulously sustained and applied throughout. As many laps as could be steadily accommodated by a very small hour in the audible company of 5 Live's film review before the battery in my headset died. Though thereafter, even with enough space to stretch my consciousness and hush to hear my thoughts, counting to 7 proved a real challenge. A barely conspicuous northerly whisper compared to yesterday's wild west gustbuster, but whose silent sting was tangible enough to warrant gloves and an extra top layer.